The Elrond Explorer is a great tool that lets you view your transactions on the blockchain. Anything that happens on Elrond is documented here, but it can be a bit difficult to find everything you need. So today we will be taking a closer look at how to navigate the Explorer, how to use it, and then I will show you a great tip that you can use whenever you're transferring your assets from another exchange or platform to the Maya app or the Elrond web wallet. Stay tuned. Hi, my name is Luis from Mystaria Vision, and since this is a more technical video, I'm going to keep it as short and concise as possible. This is really just to get you up to speed with the Explorer. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to elrond.explorer.com and have a look at the dashboard. So the first thing you're going to see is the network health. This is basically an overview of the most important information about the Elrond blockchain, like the amount of accounts that exist, as well as the epoch that we're in. On the left-hand side, right here, you can see the current market cap, as well as the eGold price. Well, what can you do? It's going to get better. And what you can see here on the right-hand side might even be more interesting, because this refers to the whole amount of eGold that is staked within the network. Now, as you know, every eGold that is staked helps secure the blockchain, since Elrond is a proof of stake blockchain. And as you can see, over the last 1.5 years, as the user adoption has grown, so has the amount of eGold that has been staked within the network. And you can see that even though during the last 2 weeks the market has been kind of shaky, the amount of eGold that has been staked has actually grown. And of course, if you have something like the new Maya launchpad that has been announced this week, this is also going to help with user adoption and the total amount of eGold that is going to be staked within the network. And then lastly, on the main dashboard, you can see a live preview of the blocks and transactions tab, which you can also find on the top right here. Now, this is particularly helpful if you have someone who's just gotten into blockchain and DeFi and crypto, because it's fairly difficult to describe what a blockchain is and how it works. But as you can see in this live preview, you can actually monitor the blocks and how they are being added, the transactions which are being issued on the blockchain. And then, of course, you can simply click on any given block and look at the more detailed explanation of what's actually going on. So what you can see is, for example, the age of the transaction or the block, when it was added, the size of the respective block, and the amount of gas that was used. That's really interesting, especially if you're just getting started and if you'd like to visualize a blockchain, the Elrond Explorer can do just that. Moving on to the accounts tab, this is just a quick info and we're not going to go into too much detail here, but what you can see here is basically the biggest wallets, or in this case, the smart contracts. So you can see these little icons right here indicate that these are smart contracts. You can see these accounts listed by size. So if you'd like to know who these accounts belong to, I suggest you go to Elrond Scan. Elrond Scan is a website built by the staking agency. And here you can have a look. You can simply go to accounts. It's basically the exact same layout as the Elrond Explorer. And here you can see who these accounts belong to. So for example, the second biggest account actually belongs to the Binance staking. So that explains why there's so much eGold locked in this one account. You can simply have a look and see there are many other crypto exchanges listed right here, and it gives you a bit more detailed information than the actual Elrond Explorer. Next up, we are going to have a look at the tokens tab. The tokens tab is always helpful if, for example, you're on the Maya exchange and there's a new token and you'd like to learn more about it. So what you can do is simply look up any token. Let's take, for example, the Holoride token, right? What you can see, for example, is the supply. So the total amount of token that exists on the Elrond blockchain as of right now, as well as the different holders. And this can give you a bit of perspective of how much the respective project is already been adopted. And what I'd like to highlight here is that you can have a look at the token's properties. Now, every token has different properties, and in this case, you can see that, for example, the RIDE token cannot be minted nor can it be burned. But what is enabled is the can upgrade property. And this means that if Holoride were to decide that they wanted to, for example, change this and allow users to mint the RAI token, they could potentially do that. Okay guys, so now that you know how to navigate the Elrond Explorer, let's have a look at how to actually use it on a day-to-day basis. And to be honest, the most useful thing you can do with it is to have a look at transactions and whether they were successful or not. So if you've ever tried to transfer your assets from Binance or any other exchange to the Maya app or the Elrond Web Wallet, you may have noticed that it takes a lot of time for the transaction to actually be processed. And that's kind of weird because we always brag about how fast the Elrond blockchain is. And it's true, the Elrond blockchain is really fast, but this process still takes a lot of time because transactions from any centralized exchange always have to be processed and monitored and approved by an entity. But the actual transaction on the blockchain is processed fairly quickly. So if you're new to blockchain and crypto and you're wondering if your transaction has actually gone through, the easiest thing to do is to monitor your transaction on the Elrond Explorer. And so there's a neat little feature on Binance that lets you monitor your transactions on the respective Explorer. In this case, of course, it's the Elrond Explorer because what I did was I withdrew a bit of eGold onto my Elrond Web Wallet. So let's pretend that we issued the transaction just a couple of seconds ago and we are still waiting for our eGold to arrive on the Maya app or the Elrond Web Wallet. What we can do here is we can go to the transaction ID and simply click on this icon right here. And we will be sent to the Elrond Explorer. And now what you can do is you can simply monitor the status of the transaction and see that it was successful. You don't have to care about any of these aspects right here, but if the status says that your transaction has been successful, that means that your eGold is already on your Elrond wallet. So for example, if your friend sends you some eGold and you're waiting for that transaction and they're saying, well, I've already confirmed that it's been sent, what you can do is you can simply copy and paste the respective transaction hash or ask your friend for that, copy and paste it into the search bar up top right here, and then you can monitor your transaction as well as the transaction details. It's that easy. And that's it for this video. I hope it was helpful, and if it was, please leave me a comment below, subscribe to our channel, and now you can either check out our video on how to transfer your assets from Binance to the Maya app, or how to stake your eGold with Istari Vision. And I will see you next time. Bye bye.